Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by and putting up with my croaky voice. I did an interview yesterday with Bonnie Tumia about the Kenyan markets on CNBC Africa. That link is at the top of Rich Wrap-Ups if you care to have a listen. Bonnie is a great interviewer, and I'm grateful. And I also did an interview with Emmanuel Gunza of the BBC about Kenya capping the cost of bank loans, and we discussed that. And finally, my piece over the weekend, which is about the rest of Africa and how policy-making errors are getting creamed by the markets. Macro thoughts, I turned bullish on sterling when everybody else was very, very bearish. And there are record bets against sterling, and these are very vulnerable as the Brexit shock fails to materialize. Have a look at Jamie's tweet. Putin met with President Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud as part of the G20 summit in Hangzhou, and futures gained as much as 5% as the markets waited on an announcement from Saudi Arabia and Russia. That announcement fell short of expectations, and the crude oil market ended up about 1.5%, and it's up just about 0.75% right now. Dr. Carlo Chalhoub, who I met in Seychelles when I was attending an Afrexim Bank event, has written a very interesting piece assessing the impact of Brexit, political uncertainty versus market efficiency, with a focus on Africa as well. Home thoughts, I dropped my 10-year-old off to a school pickup, and we get 20 minutes together early in the morning and occasionally have to circumnavigate a full-blown brouhaha on the Kiambu Road. If you don't know the Kiambu Road, it's difficult to describe, but it can get extremely chaotic. This morning she said to me, "Why do people imagine God would look like a man or even a human?" I said, "Exactly," and I struggle to remember the word, but it's anthropomorphism, which is the attribution of human traits, emotions, and intentions to non-human entities, and is considered to be an innate tendency of human psychology. I said, then she said, "Dad, is there any proof that God exists? Or even looks remotely like we imagine?" I interjected. I said, "There is not." But I said, I've studied cosmology, and the making of our universe is just so miraculous that I thought there had to be a celestial hand. The mathematics are just too extraordinary. Then we spoke of our older sisters who are both going to university in England in a few weeks' time, and whether many generations ago our relatives were refugees when they left India to come to Africa. And I said, economic refugees, certainly. And we thought about all the children alone or somewhere on the high seas, and that God may protect all their precious souls from harm. And then, kind of stunned, I went to get my cappuccino from Java. I'll put up a photograph of her from 1,553 days ago when we were in Maputo and having a fine meal in the Polana. I like this quote from James Thurber: "I've never known a woman who could weep about her age the way the men I know can." Then "Morning at the Beach" is a photograph I liked. While the little one was playing in the sand, the elder one is trying to capture the morning beauty of birds flying during sunrise. And then I like this photograph also. Ruben Wu photographs the Nevada Solar Reserve, a grouping of over 10,000 mirrors, which powered nearly 75,000 homes. Asia Times has been quite cynical about the G20 summit's empty talk embrace. The G20 meeting in Hangzhou, despite China's pageantry display and announcement build-up, was hardly noticed in Asian financial markets, which were all positive through August, with the exception of the hosts. Despite the Chinese president's admonition, Huang Zu's hollow rhetoric muffled concrete investor reassurance, but the nature of these big set-piece events is invariably that talk is really followed by real action. Body language can speak volumes about the tensions and problems facing the world's most powerful leaders, says Bloomberg, and posts this photograph and you can see what they mean. And then I like this photograph, which was posted by the Russian embassy in London. Putin met with 6 colleagues and PMs. More meetings announced. Multi-vector diplomacy in a multipolar world. He really was on the front foot at this particular conference, wasn't he? AFP photo department, US President Obama and Russian President Putin look at each other on the sidelines of G20. A picture can say more than any words can. President Duterte calls Obama a son of a whore. And my first thought is just not classy to abuse someone's mum. It really is pathetic. So I'm not on Duterte's side on this at all. I think it's disgraceful. Obama nixed the meeting after Philippine President Duterte lobbed his insult. Subsequently, Duterte expressed regret that his profane remark came across as a personal attack on Obama. What else would it come across as? Regretted the vulgar reference to Obama. I wouldn't overcrank the significance of it, said POTUS about the red carpet, and his choice of language calling the Philippine president colourful is counterintuitive, but very, very smart, I think. Trudeau, who is the topmost image maker, there's plenty of substance behind him, but I'm just saying he understands that the two work together. The benefits of growth can't be limited to the wealthiest 1%. They must be felt by everyone, he said. Marine Le Pen confirmed she will copy Cameron and organise a Frexit plebiscite if she becomes president. And on the 1st of August, I spoke about exactly this issue. So I said Europe continues to face challenges, and a number of folks reckon Brexit makes Frexit, Nexit, and even an Ital-exit more likely post-Brexit than was less likely. The Ayatollah in Iran went on the attack with the House of Saud because of the Saudi rulers' oppressive behavior towards God's guests, i.e. the pilgrims. The world of Islam must fundamentally reconsider the management of the two holy places and the issue of the Hajj. And that is really the core of their power, is the fact that they're administering the holy sites. They must not let those rulers escape responsibility for the crimes they have caused throughout the world of Islam, he said, citing Saudi Arabia's involvement in conflicts in areas including Iraq, Yemen, and Syria on the side of forces Iran opposes. The ex-Mexican President Vicente Fox says Trump handles information like a virus and he's sickening Americans. This is all about the language, the extraordinary use of very abusive language. You could even call the Duterteization of language. It is clear that Trump loves only ratings, not credibility. His campaign is a farce and he's been deceiving his followers since the beginning. The biggest issue is that he handles information like a virus, which has sickened the American people. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 111.54, dollar index 95.79, Japanese yen. Where's that now? 103.56. We're in this 103, 104 range. Swissy 0.9807, the pound 133.30. I'm a bull on the pound as I've been for a while. Aussie 0.7634. That's getting a pop as well. India rupee 66.555. South Korean won 1103.89. The Rial 325.78. Egyptian pound 887.94. And the Rand firming up 14.34 last. IHS Markit said its purchasing managers index surged to 52.9 from a 7-year low of 47.4 in July, the biggest monthly gain since the survey began 2 decades ago, and that spiked sterling. And I think we're going to continue to see positive surprises in the data. JP Morgan raised its UK growth forecast as immediate Brexit shock fails to materialise. Have a look at the raise they've done. I think we'll see it much steeper than they're predicting. Getting there, Aurelia, who's calling for 140 on cable. Look at her chart and her point size. She's very good at calling sterling and the yen. Have a look at the PMI rebound in August, rebound of 5.5 points, its largest on record. Moving on to Japan, opened this morning, the 10-year at negative 0.07%, hasn't been this close to zero since February. 30-year Japanese government bonds opened lower again, 8 straight days of losses. The steepening of this yield curve in Japan of different maturities will be welcomed by lenders because it allows them to borrow cheaper and lend at a higher level. Barclays is Jessmen, in a play on Jess Staley. Want a top job at Barclays? Having the right shoes and the right tie may help get you in the door, as some have theorized, but nothing quite seals the deal like having JP Morgan Chase on your CV. And have a look at the valuations here. Barclays among the region's lenders trading at a discount to JP Morgan's book value despite turnaround hopes. Moving on, let's have a look at the gold market. That's at 1326.8. That's had a good rebound from that key area of support around 1304. Brent gave up a lot of its gains. Have a look at this from Javier. Of course, we've turned higher by about another percent since Javier posted this. It was all about a lack of detail, but nevertheless, I think they took out all the shorts all the way up to $2 higher than where we are right now. If you want to look at the Google translation of the Saudi Arabia-Russian communique, that's there as well, kindly provided by Javier. Aurelia tweets going for it, Brent, but I don't think it's going to go that far. Look at Russia and Saudi oil production, record highs. Look at this 5-day chart of WTI crude oil. Let's see, look, we can go higher, anything can happen. We're in that sort of news-driven phase. But at the same time, I don't see it going above 51.50, nor above 60 over the next 2 years. Wow, look at India's market Sensex at about a 16-month high, close to entering overbought territory, says David Inglis. Zambia's Lungu is to be sworn in on September the 13th following his election win, will be sworn into office for a new 5-year term. The government said it would proceed with the inauguration of the Constitutional Court because it missed a 14-day deadline to rule on the opposition's legal challenge to the presidential vote. Apparently, that's not really sort of technical knockout. Félicité Dubanga tweeted a photograph of Gabon. That's calmed down for now, but clearly it remains a place of friction. The opposition candidate has called for a strike. This has been sort of, we've seen this in the DRC and a number of other places. How effective it is, we yet to find out. Angola has replaced its finance minister Armando Manuel in a cabinet reshuffle on Monday. Interesting piece in the New York Times. ANC's combative response to election losses startles South Africa. When South African voters last month handed the ANC its worst ever losses, seemingly chastened party leaders said they would engage in introspection. They promised to reach out to South Africans disillusioned by the ANC's apparent transformation from a celebrated liberation movement with cherished ideals to a corrupt party interested in self-preservation and self-enrichment. But in the weeks since the August the 3rd municipal elections, the ANC, which remains in power at the national level, has brushed aside calls from inside and outside the party to replace the scandal-tainted President Jacob Zuma before the end of his term in 2019. Instead of introspection, Mr. Zuma and his allies have moved aggressively to tighten their grip on the state's coffers, surprising opponents and allies alike with their undisguised moves. This is the attack on Private Gordon. Even the South African Communist Party has described the moves against the ministers intended to weaken Treasury's struggle against corruption. Those who've been pillaging the state in one way or another will pillage as much as possible until the last possible moment, so that when the game is over, they will be set for the rest of their lives. Mr. Chikane said, that's what we're going to see with parastatals. Over the weekend, Mr. Mugabe accused the West of continuing to plot to replace Southern Africa's liberation movements with pliant puppet regimes. Zimbabwe's economy is in free fall. It's in an experimental phase now, really. I mean, it's not clear. I think it's going to topple before the end of the year. Make up most of 10% of Zimbabweans fortunate enough to be employed in the formal sector, being paid weeks late because of the government's severe cash shortage. ZANU-PF and the ANC will never change because their support is based on the history of their liberation struggles. That's their trump card. Somebody else saying people are concerned about the bread and butter issues of this country, not how this has become about or become a hero, turned into a villain. Leaders need to bow down to the needs, the basic needs of the people, and not to brag about how they fought in the liberation war over 36 years ago. Policy-making errors getting creamed by the markets is what I wrote over the weekend. I said South Africa, which has so far skirted a recession but is skating on thin ice, has seen a renewed catfight break out over the National Treasury. If Pravin Gordhan is removed from the Treasury and President Zuma's allies are doing their level best, the rand will crash and burn. Reverses suffered at the local elections has not led to a moment of political introspection in the once revered ANC. Hardly. And just led to a renewed effort by Team Zuma to own the Treasury. Last week we learned a number of fund managers had pulled the plug on Eskom. We pulled the plug on Eskom yesterday, said Jiska Bank. I could easily see more lenders follow suit. We see issues on lending going forward and more governance issues. And as said, the negative spillover effects of this catfight are therefore all to see. South African all shares up 5.78% this year. Dollar rand strengthening down to 14.34. But obviously one big announcement out of Zuma and it's going to be over 15. Yields on Eskom holdings due February 2025 have jumped 42 basis points in a week. Egyptian EGX30 up 18.05% this year. Nigerian all share down 3.26% so far this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 9.64% this year. Registration complete. South Sudan now fully in the East African community with full equal rights, obligations and privileges. Coming to Kenya, Liberty Kenya reported first half earnings per share was down 15.385%. Interesting that claims and policyholder benefits payable surged 41.562%, and that's what really crimped profits. Profit for the period was down 15.352%, cash and cash equivalents down 34.458%. They said group earnings reflective of the continued difficult trading environment experienced in the latter half of 2015. Group investment income earnings rebounded to grow by a commendable plus 56%. Increase in expenses contained to 6.6%. Outlook for the remainder of 2016 will be influenced by an increasingly competitive marketplace, muted growth prospects, and to some degree the uncertainty of the macroeconomic impact of the recent changes in banking legislation. I think you buy it on dips. It's a conservative balance sheet, and the network effect is yet to be felt meaningfully. The Nairobi all-share tumbled 3.29% yesterday to a 35-month low. It's minus 11.02% this year. The reason was Safaricom turning ex-dividend. NSE 20 down 21.52% this year, but above a multi-year low from August 30. The Nairobi all-share, as I said, retreated 3.28% to close at a 35-month low. Great deal of the downdraft was because Safaricom turned ex-dividend. The price overshot, actually, the two dividends, which was worth 1 shilling. The dividends were worth 1 shilling 44 cents. And we saw a correction which was just slightly more than that. TPS Serena traded nearly 0.5% of its shares, closed unchanged at 17, has slumped 32% in 2016, but it's egregiously oversold now. And first half earnings provided a glimmer of a turnaround, gentle admittedly. Standard Chartered rallied 4.188% to close at 199. The markets have been quite efficient in repricing the bank shares, with Standard Chartered being impacted the least, and essentially because its existing business is largely inside the interest rate corridor. The equity group most actively traded share, it's probably going to be heavily impacted by the interest cap. It's down 33.75% this year. Centum was up 3.45%. National Bank slumped to a fresh year low. It's down 58.41% this year. Sanlam, previously Pan-African Insurance, that's down 50.833% this year. Kengen rebounded 5% to close at 630. At long last, it's a very cheap share. Buyers exceeded sellers by 1,910%, meaning it should be going up today as well. Transcentury rallied a further 5.34% to close at 690, and that's up 53.33% since the 26th of August. The reason being two positive catalysts for this sharp rally. Firstly, the news that Kuramo had agreed to acquire Transcentury shares at a 538% premium to the then market price of $450. And secondly, the better than expected first half earnings, which were a result. They were better than expected because they could write back some money once Kuramo's investment went in. So it was like a double positive whammy. Once again, thank you for stopping by.